Hello, folks. Welcome to Season 4 of our On the Call series produced by the Stars Among Us. I am Ozzy, and I thank you for tuning into this thank you tour of mine, as each episode is a thank you card to someone who has impacted my life. And on this 7th episode of Season 4, I'm shining light on Pate Patterson. Hello, Pat.
Hello, Ozzy. What an honor to be here.
Oh, man, it's an honor to have you on with me. So, I just want to let my audience know a little bit about you. First, Pat and I met in the acting arena, and we done a commercial and whatnot together. She's classically trained at AMDA, which is the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and at HB Studios under Earl Hyman, who was Bill Cosby's dad character, and Uta Hagen. And then she has been involved in theater, film, theater as in stage, done some off-Broadway plays, film, television. In terms of television, she's appeared on 30 Rock, The Blacklist, Younger, Nip and Tuck, and more. That's just a few. In terms of film, she's been involved in the award-winning movie Junction under her own production company. She's been involved with My Bakery in Brooklyn, A Cry from Within, Crazy Town, Time After Time. She's known for doing a lot of voiceovers. My first question to Pat is, what made you come to this world of entertainment? What drew you to entertainment, especially as you had a master's in psychology? What happened?
I saw the light, as it were. I always wanted to be an actor when I was younger, but growing up, I was obese. I'm not now, but I was like 100 pounds more than I weigh now. And actors, when I was growing up, were beautiful people. They were, Marilyn Monroe and Betty Davis and stars. And I was this schlubby kid from South Jersey. So I never told anyone I wanted to be an actor. Mm. So I did all the requisite things. I went to college, I went to grad school. I got married a doctor. I did everything I was supposed to do. And then finally had the guts to say, but I want to be an actor. Mm. And so we moved to New York City to start my training at the American Academy.
Wait a minute, this was when you were married?
Yeah, I was married. This sounds terrible, but I've had 2 husbands. Uh-huh. But my first husband was doing his internship in Connecticut, where we were living in Hartford. And I finally admitted to him what I wanted to do. And he said, okay, well, what would we have to do? And I said, well, I'd have to move to New York City. And he said, that's fine with me because I want to be a psychiatrist. And going to New York City is like going to Mecca. Wow. So he arranged to do a residency at the now defunct St. Vincent's Hospital down on 14th Street. And we moved to the city. Wow. And I started my training, So, yeah, it was very heady. I mean, I had never acted in anything. I wasn't like a high school actor, or I hadn't even played a flower in a school play. My first foray into acting was professionally. Wow. Which is unusual. I never really looked back. I mean, I did leave for a while to have my family, but then during that period of time, I produced theater up in Westchester County. And then I produced opera in the Midwest. And then I came back a dozen years ago, which is basically when you and I met, because we shared a commercial agent. And we did 2 commercials together, as I remember it. Mm-hmm. And when I came back, I also realized, because I am a woman of a certain age, that I'd have to produce things. And so I started producing films.
But you realized you had to produce things in order to gain the work that you wanted.
Right. In order to have a vehicle for myself at times. I don't have to be the star, because that's not my character type. I'm much more of a character actor, supporting actor, and I love that. But I did realize that I was going to have to produce work in order for people to see me, especially in the beginning. And that's what I did. And I enjoyed that part of it.
So you are a Jersey girl from South Jersey, right? Are you still a Jersey girl now?
I'm back in New Jersey. I find it absolutely hard to believe that I now live in northern New Jersey. Okay. I grew up outside Philadelphia, but I now live like 3 miles south of the George Washington Bridge. But so when I sit out on my balcony, however, I look at the New York City skyline. Wow. So it's a nice view. Now, if I were in a city, I couldn't have a car. It would be too expensive. And I have 2 little grandsons that I want to go up and see, and play with. So it works out fine. I have a beautiful apartment. Not that we have to get into the city like we used to as actors, but I could get in 15 minutes. I could be Midtown in 15 minutes. So that's why I chose this location.
Now, based on the fact that you're now looking at the business of the business, in terms of producing your own work so that you can be seen. You formed Pate Productions. Why that name?
I love Pate, and my initials are PP, Patterson. And so I wanted something that had to do with that. Now, if you would ever see my logo or look at my website,
yes, I have.
Pate Productions.
Really cute.
Okay. The reason there is the Groucho Marx logo, as it were, is that, God, 20 some years ago, maybe more, maybe 30 some years ago, a friend turned 40. Yeah, it's got to be 30 some. He turned 40 and two couples surprised him and his wife at this fancy restaurant in New York City. And I said, well, that's sort of boring. So I got Groucho Marx glasses for us to all wear at the bar when he came in, and and people tried to buy them off. And the next week, the New York Times reviewed that restaurant, La Bernardine or La Bernardine, however you say it, right. Great fish place. And they said, what a lively place. There were people with Groucho Marx glasses there and laughter. And my friend, whose birthday it was, said to me, that's your 15 minutes of fame. I went, no, it's not. So when I formed my production company, I used that logo or some version of it because my 15 minutes of fame are still coming.
Yes.
As it were.
Yes. So with your Pate Production company, you concentrate on faith-based projects?
Yes. That is when I made Junction 12 years ago. I mean, I sort of, after we made it, it's a wonderful film, but after we made it, I looked at who I am and I said, what am I? Well, I'm a baby boomer. I'm an independent producer. I'm never going to work for a studio. And I'm a woman of faith. How do I put those things together? And started doing research online and ended up getting very much involved in the Nashville Faith and Film Breakfast Club about 8-9 years ago. I now know the great majority of players in the faith market. I even helped form the New York Faith and Film Breakfast Club, which obviously during COVID went away. And we're having a meeting December 10th, a Zoom meeting to discuss next steps to try to resurrect it. Because these are the stories I want to tell. I want to tell uplifting, redemptive stories. I'm not a big things have to blow up kind of thing for me to go see a film.
Where did your faith, because I know your faith, I know your deep faith. Where did that begin? Where did that catch hold?
College. Growing up, I was afraid of everything. The only thing I was smart, luckily. But I was unattractive. Like I said, I was obese. You know, family life was not the best going. And when I went to college, I made myself a promise that I would try anything that wouldn't hurt me. Like I didn't do drugs. That's not my thing. You know, it's to this day, give me a good Manhattan and I'm a happy girl. So the first thing that came when I went to college in Ohio was a retreat weekend. This girl, Jennifer Williams, I can see her to this day. And that's 50 years ago. I see her to this day, and there's Jennifer saying, there's this great retreat, you gotta go. And in my mind, Ozzy, a retreat was like, okay, I'm gonna be in this single bed cell kneeling for the weekend. This does not sound like fun. But I made myself a promise. You can't break it the first time because how you do one thing is how you do all things, right? So I went. Well, it wasn't that at all. It was a very uplifting, lively. I didn't believe. I raised Catholic and went to catechism and church, but I didn't have a belief. If I said I believed in God, my mind would go, no, you don't. So I went to this retreat, which was Friday to Sunday, and there were talks and activities, and I was listening, and I went into chapel where, unbeknownst to me, there was always someone praying for all of us. And I said, I'm going to sit here. It was Saturday going into Sunday. I'm going to sit here until I know one way or another if God exists or not. And I kept saying, I believe in God. No, you don't. And then finally I said it, and I heard a voice come back to me saying, and I believe in you, crying. And then I realized there was someone behind me who had been praying for me that just put their hand on my shoulder. And that was the beginning of it. I mean, it's grown a lot in the last few years, much deeper. But it was always a matter of growing. And I think a lot of the growth has come from being involved in all these wonderful people in the film market who are trying to make uplifting, biblically grounded stories. So I get to be part of my faith all the time.
That's a wonderful thing to be able to.
Yes, it is.
Now, going back just a little bit, you formed with a couple of Broadway veterans, Fleetwood Stage in New York. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, when I moved to New York City, I lived on West 21st Street with my first husband because he was working down at St. Vincent's at 14th. So we found this great little apartment. And below me was this guy named Lou Alt, who at that time was on a soap opera, I want to say Search for Tomorrow. And he was my neighbor. And I was the young acting student, and he was the much more established actor, and then went to Broadway and all of the... But fast forward, I end up moving to Westchester County. At the time, my second husband comes home with this flyer saying, this person wants to start a theater company. You might be interested. And it was this former neighbor, Lou Alt. And I went, what are the chances? And so they came over to the house, he and Nelson Shealy, the artist who eventually became the artistic director, because they had both been at St. Louis Rep. They had both worked on Broadway. Nelson is the one that got me into opera. Came over and sitting at my grandmother's old dining room set, we sort of hatched this plan. I was, again, the young kid of the group where they had much more experience, and we formed Fleetwood Stage. We started in a school in Mount Vernon. Fleetwood is a section of Mount Vernon. And then we eventually ended up on Long Island Sound in New Rochelle at something called the Wild Cliff Center, which was a 99-seat theater, which eventually burnt down a few years back. We had Shakespeare on the Sound, we had traveling theater to schools, and we had 4 main stage productions a year, which was a lot. And it was a subscription base, which means you were always trying to raise money, because subscription never supports it enough. But that's how that happened. I mean, seriously, you know, my kids learned how to sort and put stickers on envelopes to send out flyers all the time. It was a family business, as it were. A wonderful experience. It really sort of set me up to produce, because I'm very logical and I'm very organized. And I learned a lot about producing from Lou. And I did a lot of stage managing then. And I think one time I actually acted in something because they fired the actress who was playing the mother character. And they said, you can do it. And I was like, I hadn't acted in years at that point. I went, okay. I did it. Okay.
Oh, now
luckily I could learn lines.
Luckily you could learn lines, right. So now you, with your Pate Productions, you have done a couple of really great pieces along with Junction. You've done Here After Here.
This is something I would very much like to see be a television series. And I have pitched it. I put together a pitch pack. It's a short. We have the pilot. We have everything together. I must admit, I let it sit during COVID. And actually today in my prayers, I was thinking about what next steps. I'm involved in a film right now that is still in production. So it's not going to be immediately, but within the next year, I think it's time to resurrect it and see where I can take it.
Tell us a little bit about the storyline.
Well, the only thing we all have in common is we all die. Right? So that always begs the question, what happens when you die? Where do you go? Who do you meet? What goes on? Those of us that have faith, that have certain biblical realities that we believe or don't believe. But then we now have all of this literature on near-death experiences, which started to be memorialized like in 1977 when Dr. Raymond Moody coined the phrase near-death experiences. And so this particular show is a weekly episodic with procedural, where each week God, who reveals himself as the man in the hat, always properly dressed for the occasion, but always with some kind of chapeau on, delivers people to this character, Kenna Mason's garden, where they are in the beginning of their near-death experience. And she and her cast of characters, she's got an angel who really likes the food down here, a healer who happens to have Down syndrome, and herself go through, you know, not their whole stories, because you never could tell a whole story, but those seminal moments of their journey where decisions were made that put them to where they are. They go back to Earth or they go on to eternity. And that is the journey each week. I think it's every 7 minutes, someone in the world has a near-death experience. They're saying there's been 23 million in the United States alone. Think about that. I mean, there's so much source material. I don't even have to make it up. Just got to read. Roma Downing had actually looked at it at one point. She was trying to develop the same kind of thing a few years back before COVID. And we sat with her and went through it. They were touched by an angel. And she has her own production company, Lightworkers. She hasn't done it yet, was not interested in mine, but we sat and chatted about the premise.
Right.
And, you know, I still believe in the premise.
Now, there's another one, Younger Man.
Younger Man was the first thing I did produce because I started it. You know this, and I don't know if your listeners will, but when I came back to acting a dozen years ago, it wasn't like it was when I was in the city before, because the first thing they all said to me is, send me your reel. I said, my what? Your reel. I'm sorry, what do you want? I didn't know what a reel was because it was new. And so I had to create a reel. So I was like, well, how do I do that? I had this story that my daughter at the time, when she was in high school, wrote. It was called Young John. And we turned it into this short film, which became a vehicle for me, as well as producing, but it was great material for my first reel. And I got to go to film festivals and understand that journey for a film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you got onto the circuit. So tell us about that.
Right. When Younger Man and Junction were out, you still could go on to the circuit and get distribution. Now, Younger Man was never going to be distributed. It was a short. That very quickly changed. Other than the 5 major, Cannes or Cannes, however you want to say it, Sundance, Toronto, Berlin, etc., they're the only place that there's any distributors looking for films. Mm-hmm. Everywhere else is a way to network with other filmmakers, maybe get your film seen, get a name for yourself. But generally speaking, film festivals are no longer a place to sell a film. They rarely have distributors on it. A lot of young filmmakers still think that's the way, and I don't discourage them because there's a lot to be learned by seeing other people's work. Mm-hmm. And by networking, as you know. But you're not going to see many distributors. Even Austin, which is a great film festival. Mm-hmm. It's a great screenwriters film festival. I think they had 1 distributor there for all the films that were in it. So that has changed. But it was early on when I first did it, I learned a lot about it. You sort of learn how to separate the good from the bad. Mm-hmm. Like, where do you put your energy to go to one of them? I mean, the first one I went to, I had to see everything. I had to do everything. And then I realized, no, this is a business. Because it is a business. It is show business. And you have to treat it like that.
But with this Younger Man, you gained a number of film festival awards. But it's also being used in different ways psychologically. Talk to us about that.
Well, Hospice, it was in Annapolis Film Festival, and Hospice came to me because it deals with an older couple where it appears that she has killed her husband. He's obviously very ill. She removes his breathing mechanisms and he dies. And you are led to believe that she is doing this because she is having an affair with a younger man. Mm. But when the reveal comes, it is a decision they made together to euthanize him. And I remember being at a film festival on Long Island where an older couple came to me and said, we're dealing with this now. And I mean, it broke my heart. Mm. So Hospice was using it in their Elephant in the Room series, they called it, which is the people they dealt with who were having to face these critical issues where your beloved husband or wife is just, the medical bills have done you in. You've got nothing left. And in this particular one, the way it was set up, she kills him for the insurance money to give to their son, and then she kills herself. So it dealt with euthanasia and suicide. And that's what they wanted to have, because it was only 9.5 minutes. So it was something they could show as part of the series and then have dialogue around. That was sort of a neat thing that came out of it that we never went in to do. We didn't even actually think about it, but it happened. So we were thrilled by it. It was a gift. Yeah.
And even your Junction won Soho International Award, and you had really key people in your films. And it seems that that's something that you're able to do in terms of the business. You're able to, have a great story, align it with the best talent that you could possibly have, and also have the marketing and package together.
I had to tell you, sorry, Harris, I love you desperately, but you weren't beautiful. But we took 3 out of 4 beautiful actors and turned them into meth addicts for this film. I mean, one of the guys, Neil Bledsoe, was the face of Tiffany on the back of magazine covers. So he was a pretty guy. And they have all gone on to have really fine careers. Tom Pelphrey was in Mank as Gary Oldman's brother. He was on Ozark and over a Golden Globe. These were guys in their late 20s when we made this film. David Zayas was in it, and he was in Dexter and many, many other things, who have really fine careers, but they were new. Not David or Michael O'Keefe, but they were new talents. Mm-hmm. And we were lucky enough that they were willing to let themselves be dummied down to be meth addicts. And they were great. And we were very lucky. One of the things you discover as an independent filmmaker is how much people want to work.
Right.
You think, I can't afford this person. With a good casting director, yes, you can, because they know if they like the story, they'll do it. They're not going to ask for their $250,000 a day. They might ask for whatever it was, Right. But that goes to the business. If you have a good story, and there are a lot of bad stories out there, people will want to be a part of it. So I've been lucky in that way.
That being said, you won awards for the Central Florida Film Festival, Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival, Las Vegas International Film Festival, Long Island, and so, as we said, really good going, Pat. I am just so proud.
Thank you.
Really proud of you. As a woman out there in this business, getting things done in this industry can be quite challenging in itself. As a mother with those responsibilities as well, and a grandma, a very hip grandma.
A Mimi.
A Mimi.
I'm a Mimi.
I mean, and you're out there doing things, making things happen. One cannot help but be proud of you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, when we met and we done the commercials and whatnot, I also remember being out west and you opened up your house to me out there. It was at a time where I was able to walk on the beach and just release a little bit, breathe a little bit. I always remember that.
Well, I do too. I do too.
So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you have any fears at this point with reference to the industry and what your goals are and what you're trying to do? What kind of fears?
Fears. One of the things that faith has taught me, especially during COVID, is that I'm not afraid. I do realize, though, that as a Caucasian woman of my age range, you know, senior citizen, there are very limited roles for me as an actor. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my time now is spent line producing other people's projects and working on my own project. Someone just sent me a script. A lot of people will give me scripts that they think are complete. And one of the things I've discovered that is if you're really honest and they come back to you, then they're willing to make it better. If you're really honest, I mean, not cruel by any means, but if you're really honest and do a good analysis of their script and they say, well, you just don't understand it, you didn't want to work with them anyway. The only thing is I do wonder how much I will act, because that is always going to be my first love, being on set and creating a character. To me, it's the closest you get to being God. Because you're taking somebody else's words, somebody else's costume, somebody else's direction, and creating a fully functioning human being through your talents that were given to you and your work. I miss it. I haven't acted for a while. Well, since prior to COVID. 2019 was the last time. I mean, I've worked as a line producer a lot, but that's my only wonderment. Not fear, but my wonderment is, will there be a place for me? Maybe I'll age out to the point where there's no one left but me, and then I'll get all those roles. Part of the problem is, you know, we all say this, but I don't look my age.
Correct.
I mean, I'm close to 70. And so my people will send me out for these 70 plus year old roles. And I look around the room and there's just no way they're going to choose me. I know it. And I have the gray wig. I got the old wig. I got the this, you know, I got everything, but my energy doesn't translate that way. Yeah. So that's the thing I'm not sure about. That's the thing in this industry that I just have to trust that God will show me the way to go and that I'll be open to whatever comes my way.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that year, that was really such a traumatic year for me.
Sure. I remember.
You were one of the voices that called every so often just to check in. And that checking in did so much for me.
Oh, thank you.
I wanted to let you know that.
Thank you.
That check-in helped move me along, steadied me, balanced me, calmed me down, got my head straight.
Well, what you chose to do, Ozzy, was, and I am a parent, but you chose to do something well above parenting. You basically were willing to give up your life for this child. You know, most of us try to figure out, well, how can I still have what I want? And no, it was a no turning back. This is what you were going to do, whatever it took. And it wasn't traditional. And it was not easy, but you made a choice that I've not known anyone else had the strength to make. I think we all like to think we would, but you did it. I mean, you just went in there, you just changed every part of your life. You left your place here, you moved out, you did all of that, not knowing if it would matter. That's incredibly brave. And most of us aren't incredibly brave. Most of us want to hedge our bets, and you didn't. So if I did anything that added value to your life, I am grateful for it. And I thank God that He made me do it.
Yes, she added a lot of value. And I wanted to be able to say this to you, to forever know that I have said it, and for you to have heard it now. Come what may.
Thank you.
Right?
There you go. It exists, right?
So I thank you.
It's part of my story now. Thank you.
Yes. And I want to tell my audience, this is Pate Patterson. This is one of the voices that kept me steady when I needed it most. So please care to share, and remember, when you're on your beat, stay on the sunny side of the street safely. Be mask conscious. It's still real out there. And thank you for spending your valuable time with us today. And Pat, thank you for taking the time out.
This has been wonderful. This has added so much to my day and my week, and I thank you for that, because it was a gift that I think I need.
And you're in my prayers, and I thank you very, very much for your faith, which I have felt so soundly over the years from you. And we will be talking soon.
All right. God bless.
God bless you too. Love you.
Love you.
Hey there. Please help us in our mission to support those facing fatal diseases through our t-shirt sales by donating or shopping at aussiestewart.com or supporting us at anchor.fm/AussieStewart. That's ANCHOR.FM/AussieStewart. And don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel at Aussie Stewart. Yep. Leave a comment.